Francis Squire. All right. So yeah, my talk is about invasive weeds in wetlands in South Africa. We need help. Do we need help? Here's a photo of a wetland in the Tsitsikamma River system close to Humansdorp. But look around it. Still a lot of aliens. No, doesn't help us to put these really expensive infrastructure in, but you still deal with this sort of thing. So there's no functioning wetland in there anymore. Do we have problems with wetlands in this country with aliens? Yes, sure we do. This is in the Tsitsikamma area where plantations are creeping into the wetlands. Alright, so why the fuss about wetlands? Wetlands, because of the latest information we've got, is one of the most threatened ecosystems, or the most threatened ecosystem in South Africa. 48% of wetland ecosystem types is critically endangered. And on my colours is different from your colours. And if we look at that, only 2.4% of South Africa is covered with or do have wetlands. So it's quite a small percentage. And the reason why we make such a push is because of this new ecological infrastructure buzzword that we've got. Because of all these good things, these crucial functions that wetland performs for us. If you look at that picture, the darker colours is the ones that's bad. Obviously, where there's more people, that's where the problems are. So yeah, you can see these colours relate to those colours. CR star is for critical endangered. So you can see these areas doesn't look too good when it comes to wetlands. So yeah, right, okay, we've got problems with wetlands globally. They reckon up to 50% of wetlands internationally is gone. South Africa, we don't have a good figure. Different studies show different figures. The area that I'm involved with in the Western and Eastern Cape, I reckon more than 60% of all palm wetlands are already gone. And I've asked the question there, why so high in the Cortaderia kingdom, and I'll have to answer some of those questions later on. Alright, but before we can look at alien plants, and we need to understand wetlands in South Africa quite better. Probably most of you know this, but it's always good to repeat these things. South Africa's topography is very interesting. For those that don't know, we had two uplift events in the southern part of Africa, 20 million years ago, and another event of 5 million years ago. And what that resulted is these drainage lines that's quite steep and high energy systems. They're linear, mostly linear system, very few wetlands, and all the wetlands we have in South Africa are directly associated with our drainage systems, with our rivers. And there's basically no inland lakes in South Africa. There's a photo of the Bramble river system. How linear can you get? Alright, for those that don't understand this geological jargon, there was basically two events, and this whole southern part of Africa was uplifted with that. And if you take a cross section from the Koningsberg through to the Yellow River, that's what you sit with. Most of South Africa sits above 1,000 meters above. This is the 1,000 meter level. So most of South Africa is above the 1,000 meter level. So you can reckon all the rivers draining South Africa is quite high energy systems, and with the high energy comes disturbance. With disturbance comes all the alien plants. There's just a picture showing the southern part of Africa much higher, and you can imagine all the rivers draining the eastward of South Africa. How the gradient of those rivers are quite tremendous. Alright, there's a typical example of the Langkloof, and you can take basically any of our cap-folded mountain rivers. Got steep catchments on either side with a fairly narrow valley bottom area that's supposed to handle all of that water. And you can reckon, or you can think for yourself, in a high rainfall event, what's happening down in those floodplains. Many of our river systems have these narrow, dominated wetlands, peatland basins, and often farmers try and farm these areas, so there's already a conflict area there. You can see there's a land creeping into the wetland, and there's lands over there. Because these are nice flat areas and the most fertile soils. And a lot of these Western and Eastern Cape are covered with palm plants, but there at the back you can start seeing the problem. That water coming into these systems because of disturbance. Right, so I've floated around to a few of my colleagues that work on wetlands around the country with all the major wetland systems, and I asked them what sort of species would they prioritize. I can give you a long list of plant species that's already a problem, but these are sort of the priorities that the guys came up with. In Limpopo, the pom-pom weed is already in wetlands now. I almost thought it was a grassland problem, but it's definitely into the wetlands. In Mpumalanga, what they reckon the biggest problem is grey poplar, different bottle species, and then Rubus is an interesting one that keep on coming up. I'm not sure exactly which species, but people are struggling with the brambles. Free State, the crack willow and grey poplar. KwaZulu-Natal has got a long list. Depends on where you are in KwaZulu-Natal. Towards the south, crack willow is also a problem, and lots of wattle species. This is quite an interesting one, I think, especially up in Kokstad area and into the mountains around Kokstad. That is really becoming a problem there. I don't think the Northern Cape one is a surprise. I want to concentrate in the part that I know better, the Eastern and Western Cape. As you probably all know, black wattle is the big culprit in most of our rivers, especially the Cape Folded Mountains, and it's probably linked with the high energy systems, regular disturbance because of flooding, and these trees were spread for the last 200 years probably in this part of the world, and it's really starting to take over a lot of our rivers. Pampas grass, just on my way, I'm driving here from PE, you see Pampas grass everywhere popping up, and it's something we really need to look at, people. Especially in the wetter areas, and there's lots of areas in the Tsitsikamma that I can show you. And also in the Lantana, a lot of the tributaries in the Lantana is starting to get completely invaded with Pampas grass. It's one of those emerging guys that if you don't keep a handle on them, it's quite a difficult plant to control. So let's rather deal with it if we can. Lantana, we all know about Lantana, lots of biocontrol on it, but it's still fighting its way down to the Southern Cape. I was at a conference 2 weeks ago at George, and people were referring to the Lantana problems in that part now. So it's definitely becoming a bigger problem. And especially in riparian areas, not so much maybe in the wetlands itself, but adjacent to the wetlands. And this is the last one, the interesting one, the mother of millions in the Biocontrol river, in the floodplains. There's big clumps of this red flowering plants coming up all over the show. One would think it's a succulent, and you would find it more to the dry areas, but these things occur in these dry river beds, starting to take over. Alright, there's a couple of photos, just to try and illustrate what I'm telling you. That's a typical river in any of our Cape Folded mountain river systems, completely clogged up with black wattle. There used to be palmite in most of these systems. The palmite don't like the shade and probably also the nitrogen, so they disappear. There's a good example of the palmite system still trying to survive here, but this is creeping in. So it will be a matter of time, and that will be also gone. This is in the Southern Cape, part of the tributary of the Goko. These rivers are completely clogged up with black wattle. So despite the working for water for many years now, we're not winning this battle. That's the mother of million. It's supposed to be red flowers, but there's something wrong with this data projected. But yeah, that's in the riverbed of the Biocontrol, taken about, there you can see, 2011. Alright, so let's look at others. Eastern Cape and Western Cape, Rubus species, your brambles, Biocontrol river, huge problem. It's so bad in certain places you can't cross the river anymore. You can't walk through it. I don't know what the game is doing there, but certainly no human can walk through there. The same is starting to happen in the Crom River. I also work up in the Elliot McClare area. There, Rubus is starting to take over, especially in areas where the wetlands are dried out. It seems like the Bramble doesn't like wet feet. But once the water table is all over, these things just come in and they completely take over areas. And I like the fires that the farmers often use in those areas, in the grasslands. Also the Kokstad area, up in Pugh, catchment area, north of Kokstad, major problem with bramble. I also know some of my colleagues up in Natal is working on some of the wetland areas. They actually spraying bramble to get rid of the stuff in the wetlands. And then the big thing that I really need to think this conference needs to start taking notice of is the Spanish reed or giant reed. It's everywhere, guys. I'm lucky to fly around in planes and choppers every now and then to do surveys, but it's frightening to see how Spanish reed is taking over a lot of our river systems. And they're changing the geomorphology of our rivers. So it's not just a problem with the alien plant, it's what it's doing to our catchment systems. The Sandwich River is full of it, the Pampas River is full of it, Oxford area is very bad. Yeah, so it's something that we need to start thinking. I don't know if there's any control on it, but it's not an easy plant to control once it's in. Then the Crackwaller, also Oxfordulus, the Cry River, which is a tributary of the Orange River. It's up in area, actually further around towards Olival North, those areas. The Uplands, the Wood River tributaries, lots of Salix fragilis. You just need to, from the plains, you just need to follow the green line, and you'll see there's all these crackwater taking growing on the riverbanks of all these wetlands. In Pampas River, up in Cortaderia is also a big problem. I've also seen photos in the Free State of areas that's badly infested with crackwater. And a couple of photos again. In this one picture, this is taken in the cocoa catchment. Obviously giant reed, there's bamboo, which is not a big problem. But the Tsitsikamma is still there. Although the biocontrol is doing its thing, but it still keep on coming back. This is a photo of the Ganges River Valley. That is not palmic, that's all Spanish reed. All of that nice green there. This is all beefwoods. Beefwood is starting to become a problem in some rivers. Kucha River, go and check out Kucha River. It's not a river anymore, it's a plantation of beefwood. And then there's a bit of Tsitsikamma in here. And I think that next photo is taken after the flood, last year's flood. You can see that's the same area, and how the river is now flowing through here. These things are starting to cause all sorts of geomorphological problems in rivers. That's the beefwoods again, falling in on the sides. Obviously the beefwoods were brought in by the farmers as windrows, but they're busy spreading into these rivers. Alright, then I can show you lots of photos of different areas in the country. That's a refuse on an end. This is a bit of a weapon still trying to survive, but look at this wall of aliens coming in. It's a matter of time and this will be gone. That's the Peter River, it's one of the tributaries of the Gouka, completely clogged with black bottle. Another photo of the refuse on the end. There's a bit of meat still surviving here with these huge blue gums on either side. You can't see the other side, but the same story there. These guys don't like the show, so they're busy disappearing. That's the New House River system with a nice meat here with a wall of cages. I think most of that is going in. Alright, and I thought, rather than me showing you a lot of photos of badly infested areas, riparian areas and wetlands, let me show you a case study of the donax river system. In this photo you can see this is a tributary of the donax, and there's another tributary going up there that's almost right at the mountain or at the top of the catchment. And you can see in a flood event just before this photo was taken, that tributary was incised. So there's a lowering of the base level at that point. I'm not sure of the reason for this river to be this badly damaged. It's probably a road, or it might even be wattled further down. Now, because of the base level being dropped, this river trying to flow in there will start cut back to get to that new base level. And for those that don't know what a head cut is, there's a head cut sitting there. Head cut, just a nice big one in a different tributary of the donax, looks like this. That's the top of the donga, migrating its way up the system. That's 2004. I also want you to look at the alien plants coming in. There's a bit of alien plants there. That looks like an orchard. A bit of alien plants there. You can see the aliens are getting more here. Now, because of that disturbance, that river is now starting to get nice small black wattle trees. Look at that, 2001. Look at that river, that disturbed area completely clogged up now. And now the water is marching its way up here. Alright, here's the 2 haircuts now. That haircut moved from there to there. There's 2 haircuts there. And in 2004 we had severe floods, so that haircut now marched right underneath that bridge, passed up all the way to the top of the catchment. Not much of a functioning wetland anymore. This gully is in places up to 8 meters deep. There's a photo of the gully. We could fly with a chopper right towards this and you could take pictures right in front of you. You can see the black peat layers in there. Those peat can only form in wetlands. There's no doubt that that's a wetland. This is still called sitting 8 meters high and drying out and obviously will disappear. And for those that don't know this hydrological buffering effect of wetlands, what we're saying is if we've got 2 similar systems next to each other, one with functioning wetlands and one without them, and you measure the discharge that comes down that river at that weir down at that point, that's typically what a graph will look like if you take the discharge over time. In the area we've got very good functioning wetlands, you will have this sort of discharge peaks. Every time there's rain, there will be more water coming down and it will flow slower as the water runs down, but there's still a holding back of that water. If you don't have that hydrological buffering effect of the wetland anymore, that's what you will measure. You will have these severe peaks and then dry periods in between where there's no flow in the river. And in South Africa, we really can't afford this already. We're already in trouble with water. And that's exactly what happened here. Remember that photos I showed you? This is the same river. But there's a town downstream called Heidelberg. And that's what happened to Heidelberg in 2004, I think. And that's the result of that. If you lose that hydrological buffering effect, the holding back of water and releasing the water slowly, that's what you will have. And if you had this instead, if that whole valley floor was still like this, this is taken in the Krum River after 1,400 cubics of water down here. That's a lot of water. That's 1,400,000 liters per second of water that flow over this system. But the meat is still there. It didn't get incised at all because it's designed. It's the super glue of these systems. The one thing they can't handle is black wattle and bulldozers. Right. And here's the evidence. This is the Krum River, in a place where the wattle took over for many, many years. Also because of the old paper road that was built in this area and crossed the river a few times, and where incision started. And then after the incision, the wattle came in and it just got worse and worse from there. Problem with black wattle, they've got these very shallow root system. The wetland used to be here. There you can still see some wetland plants. The wetland used to be here, and you get this undermining of the wetland, and these trees just fall in and they get washed away, and it causes log jams and debris dams and all of that stuff, and you can just get serious problems. You can get an idea of the Krum River once it's been cleared from black wattle. This floodplain used to be, in old photos, I can tell you, before 1942 there was pomite. When this was cleared, it was a solid black wattle stand. And that's what happened when you do have floods with wattling. That's the floodplain without pomite, and it's just a lot of sediment pulses that's moving down this system. And part of the reason is obviously Nordic farmers trying to bulldoze, trying to get rid of this thing. The fact that 3 million people depends on water from the Krum River in Port Elizabeth haven't occurred to him yet. He wants to get rid of it so you can get 2 or 3 hectares extra grazing for his cattle. And then another problem is obviously roads through wetlands. And that's also the end result of how farmers deal with this sort of problem. Let's channelize rivers. Let's create these berms, and let's keep the river where we think it must flow. This was done by a farmer with subsidy from government. I told them that this is wrong, this will not help, and it didn't help. Last year, this all washed away. All of the sediment is lying further down and in other farmers' lands now. All right, so I'm finished. Conservation of wetlands. Yes, we need the help we can get, all the help we can get. Invasive alien plants, the weeds, are definitely a problem in wetlands. They contribute to the degradation of wetlands. And we need good control methods because at the moment we're not winning this battle. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Japie. And I think it just once again shows the magnitude of the problems that we have with invasive alien species getting into these ecologically sensitive and also sensitive areas in terms of ecosystems services. We do have time for some questions for Japie. He's indicated he's happy to field any questions or comments if there are from the floor. Angela.
Japie, just in response to your question about control of the Bramble donax. The United States Department of Agriculture set a biological control program for giant weed. They've already got 2 acres established, and I'm from ARC, we're looking at a proposal for the next written water planning cycle to start the program. And then there's also whether the some research on the executive topic, afterwards, but basically a couple of things
Oh, thanks, Japie.
there are a couple of hands down to about 1 meter and supposed to have plants, plants more inviting to wasp that we've already got here in South Africa. That's sort of an integrated control method that they can present with as well. So that's possibly.
Martin, can you repeat the question?
Thanks, that's really good news because I'm really concerned about Spanish weed data.
Yeah, just to, sorry, you probably didn't get the first bit of it, that we are, Angela through the ARC is going to be engaging in a biological control program on Arundo donax. There has been some work done in the United States. We're piggybacking on the back of some of the work that they're doing. We do have one insect already established here in South Africa on Arundo that seems to have maybe come with the plant, but we are going to need more. Right. Anything else? Health.
Arundo donax experience. 1994. I killed out the Arundo donax in the inflow of the Marico Bushveld Dam. And I didn't leave a vacuum. I immediately planted Phragmites there, established it. Today, the Phragmites has moved upriver 7 kilometers where there's no more. So it actually pushes the Arundo donax up. I did that in 94. The golf course in Zeerust in 95. The same thing. It's still there, it's established. I see now that the teams working for water teams tackling Arundo donax leave a vacuum. And that's pointless. It's just a waste of money and time.
Yeah, I think that's probably a debate for another time, but certainly restoration is something that we do need to discuss, but as many people will tell you, restoration after clearing is extremely prohibitively expensive, but that doesn't mean we need to shy away from it. Thanks, Al. Anything else for Japie? If not, Japie, thanks very much.